Are you ready? I said, are you ready? Let's get ready to suck it!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the number one wrestling crossed rugby league podcast in the world. Almost guaranteed. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think there's another. So we'll take the throne, like I always say. Joined as always with by Curtis Woodward. I am Dean Messiter, your host from the NRL Roast. Curtis, how are you, my man?
Good, Cobber. It's been a while. It's good
Cobber.
to talk to you and good to see your face. Yeah, Cobber, mate. How are you,
Cobber.
brother?
I love that word. I don't hear it that often.
No, it's a good word. It's a good
Is.
word.
Oh, Cobber.
It is. Yeah, no, good to be back. Good to be talking about pro wrestling and NRL or rugby league, and do it on a Wednesday night. And I know that a lot of people out there are looking forward to it. So it's good to be back and talk some shit and have a drink and see where it goes.
Talk some rubbish.
That's it.
Dribble along. But, yeah, this is us. We are going to be talking, there's plenty going on in the rugby league world and the wrestling world. We're going to be talking signings. So, obviously, in the news at the moment, Cameron Munster, what's he going to do? We're not going to be talking exactly about him. We're going to be talking about some of the biggest signings in wrestling history. Got the venue, the new Allianz, the old SFS, Allianz Stadium, opens up next Friday, kicking off. I believe the NRLW kicks it off earlier on. The Roosters, maybe against the Dragons or the Knights, not quite sure.
Yep.
Followed up by the Roosters Rabbitohs rivalry, which will be a massive clash on that Friday
Are
night.
you going to that?
Actually, might be.
I've got tickets.
Yeah, I'm
I might
undecided
see you.
yet, so we'll definitely catch up for a drink. We'll talk after, but yeah, so we're going to be talking some venues, some of the greatest venues in wrestling history, or some of our favourites. Of course, we'll be talking some rugby league news, and we're going to answer some questions. We got a bunch of questions we threw out. I think today, just asking for some questions. We've got a bunch of them. We'll go through and give some answers to those. Everything that you want to talk about, we will be talking about. So let's get straight into it, mate. Rugby league world. Round 24 about to kick off tomorrow night. This is recorded, obviously, Wednesday night. You'll be listening tomorrow morning, so it kicks off tonight with Broncos Eels. Couple of massive clashes with some top 8, top 4 implications this week, mate. What sort of got you up and about this weekend in footy?
Oh, look, just from last weekend in general, a lot of people, it's been a really good quality season of football. I actually enjoyed the buyouts, some big scores on the weekend and some teams flexing as they go towards the top 4 or the top 8. And obviously a couple of teams or several teams kind of waiting for their Mad Mondays or whatever they're planning. So I think there was a tweet from Phil Gould who basically just put out the scores from Super Saturday and all the big scores. I'm like, mate, what do you expect this time of the year? So good to see the big teams that are rolling towards the finals doing their thing. And obviously, like you said, some big games coming up this weekend as well. And also it probably helps too with the Penrith Panthers, some injuries, which kind of pulls them back before the finals. I'm not sure how many more wins they're going to get before the finals. In saying that, they still beat South last weekend. So
yeah,
we're not death riding the Panthers, but obviously with the players out, you could argue and say, okay, all right, well, the Panthers, these guys are getting a rest before the finals come around, but they've still got to come back against teams that are roaring into the finals with runs in their legs. So I'd like to ask you, I mean, like out of all the teams real quickly, and I think we're going to do it later anyway, or we're going to do grand final predictions or whatever, but who do you think is the biggest challenger right now, or the team that's most consistent in the last couple of weeks?
I spoke about the Sharkies earlier on in the year that they were very inconsistent. They went like win loss, and now that they're starting to put on a bit of a run and looking very, very strong. I still can't go past the Panthers. I think they're still the number one. They got Luai back this week. He comes back in. Nathan Cleary back week 1 of the finals. If they get through to a prelim, but I think any team can upset. The way this top 8 is this year, any of these teams can upset anyone in that prelim. So I think Sharkies, depending on who they finish second, I'm not sure who they'll go. They'll go on the if they win. If they Cowboys, win, maybe. If they win, they won't have to face Penrith until the final. So if they get through to a prelim, if they lose that first game, then they obviously go onto that side. I'm 100%
with you. I think it'll be. I honestly think the grand final's already penned in. Panthers.
You think those
Sharks.
two? Panthers Sharks?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the Sharks have the team. And I know Panthers fans are going to say, "Oh, come on, he's a West Tigers fan. He's just having a dig." But Penrith, by all means, should be the absolute hot favourites for the title. But it just puts a bit more spice into the competition. They got players out at the moment, and on grand final day, trust me, Craig Fitzgibbon and those players, that the team they've got, and it seems like Cronulla just always find a way to have that niggling, hard-nosed, tough nut football team that can get under your grill. And that's how a lot of other people have been saying it too. That's how you beat Penrith. You get up, get in their face.
Yep.
You try to do a number on Fisher Harris and try to stop their roll. And if you put Cleary on the back foot, we've seen it in Origin and other games. Let's see what happens. But I think Panthers Sharks is the grand final for sure.
But you even look down in the bottom half of the top 8. You got Roosters. You've got Rabbitohs.
Yep.
Again, any of these teams, they start. Rabbitohs have been looking really good. Apart from they did lose against the Panthers without Cleary and Luai. I know that, but it was a strong game. That was a really good game. So, look, I think it's probably one of the most tightest top 8s we've had in a long time, and really looking forward to the final series.
The best part about it too, Dean, just quickly, I know we've got a lot to get through.
Yeah, you're right.
In a lot of other seasons, we look at the top 8 and the teams around 7 and 8. Sometimes they get into the finals with a losing record, and you look at those teams and say, you don't deserve to be there.
Yep.
I think all these teams are scrambling, and if you make the 8 this year, you deserve to be there. That's the big thing this year.
I think even if you go, what do we got? Broncos, their record 13-9. So even if they go and lose the next two, 13-11.
That's a winning premiership season, regular season.
So it'd be very interesting, and so we go. I just want to go back real quick to the blowout scores, and there's been a lot of discussion about how they combat these blowout scores and things like that. There's no way. There was talk of sort of, shortening the season. I'm like, even if you shorten the season, there's still going to be teams that can't make the 8, have nothing to play for in the final 2 rounds, that clock out early and don't perform. It's inevitable, right? We've just sometimes got to accept this has been one of the closest. We spoke halfway through the year. I think had the record for the most games within a 12-point margin, or how close the games were. This happens at this time of the year. We have blowouts. It just happens. We need to accept it and don't rush into changing too many things. I agree that maybe there's games. I think like this week you've got Dragons. Who are the Dragons playing? Jeez, I should know.
My boys, West Tigers.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's the Cup. It's the LWO Cup
at Parramatta, of all places.
I know. But look, games like that mean nothing, if they have new rules or things that they want to try and implement in a real game environment, I don't mind that. I don't totally agree with it, but I'm like, do you know what? It gives them a bit of real game experience. If they want to trial different things, that's fine, because it has no impact on the final series or the competition in general. So I don't mind that. But yeah, there's nothing we can really do to combat the blowouts. It's just going to happen this time of year.
Yep.
Mate, big question around the Raiders. They're still in contention here. They've still got a chance if they win out. We've got Roosters v Rabbits, Eels v Broncos this weekend. So all those bottom 4 teams play each other. We could see the Raiders, or we probably will see the Raiders on equal points with at least 2 of those teams. Do you think they can still make the 8? Are you picking them to make a run and get into the 8 this year?
It all depends on your Dragons. So funnily enough, I've been saying on another podcast, the Red V podcast, talking about the Dragons and all these juniors, these exciting young kids that are coming in, and they were amazing on Sunday against Gold Coast, in the fact that even down a man sin bin with a long time to go in the game, they went to another level and just played football and scored another 3 or 4 tries and put 46 on the Gold Coast. They need to roll into this week and beat the West Tigers, which I think they'll do easily, which then comes down to what they do against the Broncos at Cogra in the final round. So, funnily enough, the Dragons can't make the finals, but it's your team that could actually dictate what happens in that final spot, depending on what the Broncos do this weekend. So, it's interesting. There's a lot of cards to fall still to go. In regards to the Raiders, I think they can still challenge and slide into that bottom spot, simply for the fact that they remind me a little bit still of like the Cronulla Sharks in the fact that they're still a football club. They're not a franchise. I wouldn't call them a franchise like some other, like the Melbourne Storm's a franchise, or
yes,
you know what I mean. So they're still a footy club that goes out on the weekend and plays footy, and if they lose, they lose, and if they get up, they toil and get away with the win. So there's still, like I said, there's still some to go, but I think the Raiders can still slide in. But again, it actually depends on what your Dragons do in the next couple of weeks.
And also, there's they're got a negative differential, so they have to make up a fair bit of points here. Canberra. So the difference, the lowest team, so the Broncos are plus 21, the Raiders are minus 25. So let's say the Raiders come out and put a 20-point smacking on the Manly Seagulls this week. Broncos.
Where are they playing from memory?
Down at Bruce, or down in Canberra.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. I think Manly are done. I don't think Manly will win another game.
No. So if they put on 20 there, and the Broncos, let's say, even if they win this week and only win by 2, if the Dragons come out and put a score on, then the Raiders put another score on whoever they play in the final round, they can still lose, even if the Broncos. The Broncos can still miss out on the 8, even if they win one of their two remaining games. So it's just a very interesting prospect. I think it's a great to see that we have all these competitive teams down the bottom that potentially, like we said, a team could end up 14-10 and miss out on the finals. So
and it's crazy to think, like a couple of months ago, and you can go back through my Twitter, I had the Broncos penciled in. I think I've even spoken to you about it, and I was just checking the prices of the Broncos to make a grand final. And I was like, I can't believe the Broncos are at this price. And they're sitting around 5th or 6th or 4th throughout the season, and they're winning games they weren't winning last year. I'm like, trust me, they're a real dark horse to make the grand final and like have a fairy tale run. And all of a sudden, they are on the brink of not making the finals, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So
some interesting
Rugby League, everybody.
Yes, the greatest game of all, as they say. Now, a quick LWO Intercontinental Championship title
Where are we
update.
At?
So the Cowboys had it. We thought they might win through, but we thought they might go all the way to the end of the season. Unfortunately, they were beaten by the Roosters a couple of weeks back. The Roosters are now 2-time Intercontinental champions.
Nice.
And now...
Roddy Piper.
Yep, now they come up against the Storm this week, who can win it. So big matchup this week. We'll see the Roosters v. the Storm for the IC title. Can we see the Roosters end the season with it, or will the Storm take it away from them? But with one game to go, so interesting to see. But
that's a good one. I like that these LWO IC title matches where it's kind of like two former champs, kind of like a Randy Savage versus a Piper. They're both they're both main eventers kind of thing, or like a Jericho versus Benoit or something like that.
Yeah, it brings prestige back to the title.
That's it. That's exactly right, DMS.
Yep. Mate, now let's move on to one of our topics that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, what's going on in the rugby league world. At the moment, I say at the moment, it happens all year round. The signings, different players, but probably one of the biggest players in the game at the moment is being talked about almost every single day, it seems, considering his manager is on NRL 360 to talk it up. Yeah. But Cameron Munster, where will he go? Questions, answers we don't know. I'll tell you just off topic, not off topic, but just off the signings. Melbourne Storm, their social media the last couple of days has been on fire, obviously taking into account that they know everyone wants Munster to sign. They put up a little cryptic tweet last night. All it was signatures, the hand with the pen, eyes. Everyone went, holy shit, he's signed.
Was it, Nicarima or something?
There was like 5 signings. There was Dean Iramia, Grant Anderson.
Jennings.
Jade Nicarima. Who else?
George Jennings.
George Jennings was the first one. That's what they led with. And look, no dig on the players, but if you're going to probably, use the hype of Munster to announce 5 signings, and then they're all. I know they're the one club, the family club, and all that sort of stuff down there. But you're probably letting all the fans down a little bit today. But
honestly, I think he's going. I think he'll have one more year next year at the Storm, and he's gone. And I hate to say it because everyone says, "Why do you keep watching NRL 360 if you hate it so much?" It's kind of like Jerry Springer kind of thing. It's kind of like if you don't watch them, what are you missing out on?
Yep.
You don't get to abuse it if you don't watch it. I think the padding Anasta has laid down in the last couple of months, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's not us, it's them, and we're Melbourne's still in the ballpark and all this other stuff. Look, I think he's going to end up at the Dolphins, not in the first year, but he will end up in Redcliffe very, very soon.
Yep. Actually, someone mentioned it today, and they said, why don't they just front load him, pay him like a shitload to get him there, and not worry about the first year or even the first 2 years, and then just build around it. Like, just get that name because they need that name, the Dolphins. So
yeah, but then they'd have to pay out his contract though at the Storm, though, wouldn't they?
No, sorry. I meant just to get him for 2024.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Even like if he's still undecided and he's thinking about going, they're offering way more money than what the Storm are offering, I believe. But it would, if they front load it and pay a lot to start off with, where they've only got bit players around him, and then build the roster when in the remaining, let's say they sign him for 4 years, front loading for 2 years, the final 2 years they can build and get even better players around him. So suffer a couple of years to make it worth it in the long run. But it'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I mean, and really, truly, this is an art form that rugby league has not learnt yet. Like, you want to talk about baseball and money ball and all that kind of stuff. The next big thing in rugby league that has not really happened yet is long-term roster management.
Yep.
And spreadsheets and where our roster is in 2 years, what we can do for the first 2 years, say if you get a Munster in the second year, and our prices and who we can get after that. That's the next big thing. And I think a lot of the time, and I've said this a lot in articles and social media in different places, is that rugby league is still caveman when it comes to roster management and head offices actually, just being professional in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see what happens. But
years away from that.
But look, again, and the other thing too that we haven't spoken about is Wayne Bennett, who at his age and his ego, and God bless him, he does have an ego as big as Jack Gibson. He wants to be on the grand final pedestal with the Dolphins in the first 2 years, right? Yep. And he's already dirty that he's not getting help from the NRL for the first year, which he's already gone on record as saying. He's not going to be there in 3 or 4 years. So who's the guy behind Bennett? Apparently it's Christian Wolf who's coming along. So let's hope the Dolphins are future planning for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah. Interesting to see. Good couple of years coming up. Yep. Hey, let's get on to some, we're talking about signings, so let's get on to the wrestling side of things here. What I wanted to talk about was probably some of the, we lived during this Attitude Era, Monday Night Wars, all this sort of stuff where, wrestlers were going backwards and forwards and big names are going here, big names are going there. So I wanted to talk about who were some of the biggest names that you, we can go past that as well, not just that era, but I'm saying we grew up in that era, so we know what some of the big signings. What were some of the biggest signings that you remember growing up watching wrestling, swapping from WCW to WWE or TNA to WWE to TNA? Who were some of the big ones that you remember?
Well, I was going to ask you this. I was going to slide into your DMs and ask you for clarification, but I kind of got what your question was. So we're not talking about guys that WWE developed in OVW like Cena and Orton. We're actually talking about guys that switched companies. So
look, you can. I just think.
I agree with you. I didn't do that.
No, yeah. I think the ones where we talk about the jump ship, from, let's say, from WCW to WWE or the opposite.
Yeah, they made a difference.
They're probably the bigger ones that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, yeah, there are some big signings of these young ones that they developed and things like that. But
yeah,
I think,
that's not really signing though, is it? Yeah.
No, it's developing,
All right.
yeah. So
all right. Okay, so I've kind of done this. I've got three really big ones. The first one for me is I'll call him Stunning Steve Austin in WCW as one of the Hollywood Blondes. He got sacked by Eric Bischoff by Fax.
I remember
Went
that.
to ECW for a couple of months, did some promos, but I can't remember if he had a match. And then Vince signed him as the ringmaster under Ted DiBiase, and he still had some hair on his head. But I look, that to me, that is the biggest signing. Because Austin made just as much money in that Attitude Era than Hogan did in 10 years as Hulkamania ran wild. So for me, Austin, WCW, ECW to WWF is my biggest signing. The next two are both actually Hogan. So, and I'll name this one first. Hogan was in Vern Gagne's AWA in the late 70s and early 80s. And they actually had Hulkamania in AWA. So, guys, if you don't remember, if you just think Hulkamania happened in WWF, the word Hulkamania and Hulk Hogan was actually in AWA first in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Vince actually just went, oh, well, I've got the money. Let's sign him. So, Hogan AWA to WWF is the most second important, because if it wasn't for that, then Hogan WWF to WCW in the mid-90s doesn't happen.
Yep.
So obviously, then the Monday Night Wars happen. At Bash at the Beach, Hogan's kind of on his downslide as a good guy or a baby face, and he joins the New World Order. So I've actually got Hogan at 2 and 3 from one to the other. I'll be real quick.
In that first one, we'll go back to the first one. When he signed, when he first went to WWF, did he win like the title match did he win the title in his first match?
Yeah, so he basically came in, and I'm pretty sure it still wasn't the yellow and red tights or anything like that yet. And I think it was the Iron Sheik. And he beat him in Madison Square Garden in like a minute or 2 minutes, something like that. Maybe I could be wrong. So listeners, if it's not the Iron Sheik, just remind me. But yeah, so basically when Vince gets onto something, he didn't fuck around. It's just basically, let's push this guy to the moon. And Hogan was a beast, man. And he was coming off the back of Rocky 3.
Yep.
Where he bashes Rocky Balboa and all that kind of stuff. So they're 1 to 3. And I'll let you get to yours. You'll be happy with this. Triple H, WCW to WWF.
Yeah, what was he in?
Terrorizing,
yeah.
Oh, so I won't go into that because I know you love Triple H. And the last one is another WCW to WWF. His name was Mean Mark Callis. He was only at WCW for a short time, ended up becoming The Undertaker in WWF.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I've gone probably a little bit opposite you in a way that I've gone sort of the big ones, the ones that sort of made an impact straight away. Yeah, which is good. Yeah, we get to talk about all the different signings. So I think these are in no particular order. So I just want to the way I've got them written down. I thought the biggest one was Kevin Nash and Scott Hall going over from WWF.
Sorry, I didn't even think about that.
No, that's all right. You went more like ones that came over and then made the biggest impact over time. I think these, like when they were sitting ringside at the WCW event. Who are these guys? The outsiders, all that sort of stuff. It was just brilliant.
And they didn't use their names either.
That's right.
They kind of insinuated that was Razor Ramon and Diesel, but they couldn't use their names.
Yep,
I remember that too.
Bret Hart for going over to WCW because of the impact that the flow-on effect from that. Like he tried to do it all right. I'm going over there. I'm letting you know this is what's happening. We'll drop the title or whatever. And then we have the Montreal Screwjob. From that, we get Mr. McMahon as a character, as the boss. Yeah, the flow-on effect from that was massive. So I think, that signing is one of the most impactful. A couple other little ones. Kurt Angle coming in from the Olympics.
Yep.
And coming straight in and being a superstar basically straight away. Made an impact. Jericho, when he came over, he was a bit of a bit player. Like it wasn't a big name. He should have been in WCW, but he was like pushed around and not given what he thought he should have.
What they call it, the National, they called him a vanilla midget.
Yeah. And he comes over, comes straight into WWE, and he's not a superstar straight away, but the whole countdown to the millennium that they had, no one had an idea of what it was. His entrance was absolutely cool. And just, some of the flow-on effect from that as well.
He had a promo first night with The Rock on Raw.
Yeah, exactly. So, how many people get that, which is massive. And I thought recently, if you look at CM Punk to AEW, he's been massive. Like, it got me back into regularly watching AEW. I'd sort of been watching it here and there. Different guys caught my attention, but him going there after so many years of wrestling absence got me back into it a little bit, and I'm regularly watching it. So there's some of my...
That's what... Look, if something makes you watch wrestling again, that's a good
That's what it's all
thing,
about.
Right?
Yeah, yep.
I don't agree with how they've booked him and how like he's wrestling every week, 20-minute matches with jobbers and stuff like that. But they could have booked him differently. I think there's a fan question later about Punk too.
There is,
which we'll get to later. But yeah, look, from day one, and this is when Vince was still booking WWE, and everyone was sick of Vince and the shows and how boring they were. So everyone was like super keen on AEW, and I was watching it before that when Cody Rhodes was in there. He had the sledgehammer and he was smashing the King's throne, which is a metaphor for Triple H and all that stuff. I think they've lost their way a little bit, but you're 100% right. Like,
I think with the way it's going now, with Triple H taking over WWE and the area that they're heading now, where they're heading, I think AEW is like, we need to pick it up. We need to, otherwise they're going to lose the traction that they've made. So
100%.
Hopefully we get to see some interesting things come up.
Well, that's the main thing, right? Like if Triple H makes Raw and SmackDown better, which he has immediately, like Raw's back over 2 million viewers in a NFL NBA week against rivaling those on different stations over there. They're rising very quickly, and the show is so much different. I was just saying, you can see it in the background now. It's on replay on KO. It's a completely different show, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this is so fucking good.
Yeah.
So hopefully that makes AEW better again, because I think they've kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit the last couple of months.
So if you're listening, let us know what is your biggest signing. Get in the comments. Let us in, especially Twitter. That's probably where our biggest audience is. Let us know in the comments there. Tag us. Who was your biggest signing for you watching wrestling? Whether it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, today. What was your biggest signing, mate? SCG opening back up next Friday. I think we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Great match. South v Roosters with the NRLW beforehand, but it got you talking about some of the greatest venues in wrestling history. Even maybe I've got some attendance records and things here. Maybe we talk about some of the pops that we've had in certain stadiums. But I'll let you sort of take the reins here. Let us know, what are some of the most memorable stadiums in wrestling history.
Oh, like I thought of it as if I was there, like if I could have been there. WrestleMania in Houston, 2001. Rock versus Austin main event, where I don't think Austin should have turned heel, but
you posted that promo the other day and asked, "Is this the greatest?"
Oh my god,
it is. It's the greatest. What do you call it? Like promo. It's a promo, right?
Video, promo,
whatever. In wrestling history, it has to be. Every time it comes on, I have to stop and watch it. So
yeah, it's giving me tingles right now.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, the show went very long, and there's some stupid stuff there. Like, there was a 20-man battle royal with all these old gimmick guys like Terry the Taylor and the Gobbledygooker, and Jim Cornette was there and all that stuff. But I think there was a really good wrestling match that night, Angle and Benoit. But Austin Rock, I mean, that was madness, and that was their second WrestleMania, and they went and main event, and they went and done a third one. But the pop that night for Austin in Texas was the biggest pop I've ever heard. The next one would be WrestleMania the next year in Toronto, 2002, Rock and Hogan.
Yeah, massive. Yeah.
That was madness as well. Bash at the Beach, I would have loved to be there in 96 when Hogan turned on WCW, when he came out and done the leg drop.
Would you have thrown your drink and thrown toilet paper at him if you were there?
Oh, I think so 96, I was 6 years old, but if I was a 19-year-old American dickhead in college and you could throw cans at people, I would have fucking done it for sure. But
I reckon if you've grown up idolising Hulk Hogan almost your whole life, there's a good chance you're throwing shit at him when he does that.
Oh,
you don't. Well, I don't want to say like encourage violence and encourage throwing shit, but like people were throwing everything in that ring. It would have been devastating.
People by then were sick of Hogan though.
Yeah,
they were sick of him by then. That's why he had to do it.
Yeah.
If he didn't do it, he would have been wrestling in Impact Wrestling from day one with Jeff Jarrett in 2002. Like, he was done. Like, people were booing him before that as a good guy.
Yep.
They were over him. So it was and he's the most strategic, great backstage, whatever you call it, politic of all time. That was a great call from Hogan. I'm sure he was shitting himself when he did it, but it made sense in the end. And the other one too was in Montreal, the screw job at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Used to be there and to see all that crap happen. Would have been even better if you had a time machine and knew the background of it after and then going back and being there live. But for those people in Montreal at that time, and I'm sure we could spend a whole episode on this when we could watch the documentary Wrestling with Shadows about Bret Hart. I'm now coming to the point where I actually think that Bret Hart was in the whole thing.
Do you know,
sounds crazy. Yeah. I reckon Bret and Vince planned this whole thing out.
Do you know, like, the more I watch different documentaries, different sides of stories, it changes all the time. I'm of that belief, like, it depends, like, what version people want you to hear. It could be the longest work in wrestling history, and it's just...
yeah. And
you might have said that last time, I think.
Who made the most money out of it? Bret Hart and
Vince. So, yeah.
And do you really think, and I think someone else said this, it might have been Scott Hall before he died, do you really think Bret Hart would have been able to punch Vince out? And it's actually in the documentary where Vince comes out and sells it, and he's got like weak legs and he can barely walk. And he walks past all the people in the tunnel, and he looks like he's actually on a show and he's been punched in the face.
Yeah.
There's something to it. But anyway, what's yours, mate?
Mate, I've gone for some similar things. Some massive moments that I would have loved to have been a part of. When you talk about Stone Cold, I would give Tommy Dearden's left nut, the one that was ruptured on the weekend.
So you wouldn't give his good
I wouldn't
one?
give his real... no, sorry. This is the one that's not injured, sorry, that's not ruptured.
So you'd give his good one?
Yeah, I'd give his good one because that's how much I want to... Yeah. To experience a Stone Cold Steve Austin entrance, I just think...
Oh, man.
Hear that when the glass shatters, to hear it and him just storm out, like back in his prime when he was just like an angry, angry man walking out, and you just knew that shit was going to go down. Like, there was so many times like watching that, you knew in the back of your mind that wrestling was predetermined and all that, but something about it was just like, man, there's something real in this, so it made you believe. It just made you,
That's what good pro wrestling should do, is make you stop. It's like a good movie. It's like you forget you're in a cinema watching a movie, right?
Yep.
So that's what wrestling did when we were kids, was like, okay, well, they're not really fighting, but it can, what was it, suspend our disbelief or belief or whatever?
Suspend our belief, yeah.
There's the best pop I've ever seen on YouTube of Austin. It's like there's 20 guys in the ring. I think it's before a Royal Rumble. And Austin's music comes on and Dead Set punches on and throws 20 blokes out of the ring and gives 20 stunners.
I think it was the Alliance feud.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, when... Was it 2002 or late 2001?
One.
Yeah, when they had the WCW, ECW, the Alliance, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, Vince McMahon sort of convinces him to. Remember, he was going through that bit of that dumb stage where he'd be sing-alongs on the guitar and acting a bit stupid.
Kumbaya with Kurt Angle and all that shit. Yep.
And then he come back out and just annihilated everyone. That was good. I had a look at a few venues and some of the pops that you had in those venues, and What got me was the Madison Square Garden. You have a look at some of these big events, big venues, the ones that hold all the WrestleManias and all that. But Madison Square Garden, for some of the moments that it had throughout my viewing and some of the older stuff as well, there was so many old moments that stood out at that venue. But for me, you look at like WrestleMania 10, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon for the IC, the ladder match for the IC title.
Yep.
Massive curtain call. That moment that was captured there, I would have loved to be there and see that because, again, breaking that kayfabe thing. Triple H making his return in 2002, just the massive pop because I was a massive fan of Triple H, still am. And when he returned after his quadriceps injuries, came back and the pop he got. John Cena return, and these are all... John Cena return at the Royal Rumble. These are all at Madison Square Garden. So the amount of history that venue has in wrestling is pretty phenomenal. And
if you think about the MSG in general, and I think we talked about territories, or maybe we haven't even got to it yet. But Vince McMahon has always, or WWE has always considered MSG their home ground, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, if you go back to like Bruno Sammartino or Bob Backlund or Hogan later. MSG is their home stadium. I think Vince even had his own office in MSG, even if he's on the road for 6 days, he'd go back there. I mean, I can think of a couple off the top of my head. Scott Steiner, Survivor Series debut 2002 or Kurt Angle's debut. Oh, no, it was Taz.
Taz debuted against Kurt Angle.
WWF at MSG.
Yep. Rocky Maivia, the Rock, as Rocky Maivia.
Oh, he's debuted Survivor Series 96.
He debuted there, so...
It's a hectic place, mate. And
there's a ton of different memories and moments that are huge that we would all give Tommy Dearden's good nut to go watch and be there.
I'm pretty sure, and I could
Tommy.
be wrong here too, but you want to talk about Hogan's squash match to win the world title against the Sheik. That was at MSG. Kevin Nash or Diesel, his horrible run started the least over world champion of all time. They made the least amount of money. Started in a 10-second Powerball match to win the world title against Bob Backlund in like 1993.
Yeah, right.
So like look that up as well. Like literally, Kevin Nash looked at Bob Backlund, gave him a jackknife powerbomb, and won the world title.
10 seconds.
It's fucking horrible. Terrible booking, but yeah. MSG, you're right, mate. It's one of the best wrestling matches of all time is Kurt Angle versus Guerrero at WrestleMania 2004.
Oh, yeah.
The SmackDown World title.
Yep.
That was brilliant as well. Yeah.
Shout out to the Hammerstein Ballroom, home of ECW. Some massive events there and some classic matches. Probably the one that, you see more of is the John Cena
Heyman
versus RVD title match.
Yep. Was that the night that Heyman done the big promo against JBL on that? And they
yes.
all the and like Heyman just came out and was just cut a 20-minute promo on all these WWE guys as well.
Yep. So just a shout out to them. Wembley held SummerSlam back in 92, I think, with Davey Boy Smith. So they had the world title. I think it was Warrior v maybe Savage
I can't remember. In
the match before it, and Bret Hart fought Davey Boy Smith in the main event for the IC title, and the pop that Davey Boy Smith got when he defeated Bret Hart for it was massive. So another moment that I would have loved to be at. But yeah, shout out to those.
Yeah,
mate. I actually, when I was doing a bit of research on these, I went to WWE. They've got a list of WWE attendance records. There was for wrestling records. I'm not sure if you know this, but the highest attendance at a wrestling event, not just WWE, any wrestling event. Do you have an idea of what it is?
Oh, is it Wembley?
No, it's in Japan. It was a two-night event with Ric Flair versus Antonio Inoki.
Yep.
170,000 people. It was a two night thing. Had 150,000 the first night and 170 the second night. Massive.
Yeah.
But I went through.
Flair and Inoki wrestled a lot through their careers.
Yes, yeah.
Inoki a lot in Japan and Flair for NWA and then WCW. But Inoki, to put Inoki in perspective for people that don't know who he is, Inoki was as big in Japan as The Rock in America.
Yeah, 100%.
For 20 years, for easy 20 years.
And this is in 95, I think it was. So Ric Flair, still very prominent. And when he came into WCW as well, so both at their best, or maybe not their best, but both at a fairly
still
big
height.
Names. Yeah. I was going through the attendance, and WrestleMania 32 with 101,763 people is the highest one. It's the only WWE event that's got over 100,000 people. Main event there was Triple H versus Roman Reigns for the WWE title back in 2016. But I was going through them, all WrestleMania, apart from SummerSlam in Wembley, it's the fifth highest, just over 80,000. But I scrolled down, there's only the big event, which was in 1986, and coming in at 17th. I'll let you maybe try and guess why I'm mentioning this one.
Was it an Australian event?
It was.
Was it at Colonial Stadium in Melbourne? Brock Lesnar versus The Rock versus Triple H?
No. The Colonial Stadium. No, it's the MCG Super Showdown.
Oh, okay, the more recent one. Okay.
That was 2018.
There was one like 2002 at Docklands or whatever you want to call it.
Yes. Was it a pay-per-view?
Oh, it was kind of like, when like England had their pay-per-views like Insurrection and Rebellion. It was kind of like that. Yeah. It was like a
Global Warming Tour, Melbourne. Yeah, I remember that, 2002. So it's down, what's that, 7, 8, 9, 20, 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 26 in...
all right, that's not bad. Yeah, I
forgot
about...
Aussies are in there in the 17th and the 26th spot. But yeah, I just thought it was mad that the Super Showdown back in 2018 with just over 70,000 people, main event Triple H versus The Undertaker in a no disqualification match. I remember them going out in the crowd and running around. It was a good event.
Kane and Michaels were managers that night?
Yes, they were. They were involved in it as well.
Not managers, but they were out there somewhere. Yeah,
they're fighting around as well. So yeah, a little bit interesting when we're talking about venues. So, but yeah, let us know in the comments as well. Send us a tweet. Let us know what moment, if you could go back to any moment in wrestling history to be a part of it, and what venue it was at. And what was the moment? Let us know, because I'd be interested to see what is everyone's favourite all-time wrestling moment. Mate, been a lot of talk about we talked about the blowouts and how we can fix the some of these games that sort of mean nothing at the end of the year, the bottom 8, all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to. I don't think change it. I think we've spoken about that. We just need to leave it. These things happen. But I thought, for the aim of the show, let's try and do something a little bit funny. I think if you want to do something at the end of the year, you get some of your best players in the bottom 8 and face off in a King of the Ring style tournament. Now, looking at
it would be fun to watch because they'd all be drunk and off their heads on drugs. But...
Yes, correct. Because it's the off season, right? Do it straight after Mad Monday. Get them in there. Yeah, I would love to see.
Yeah, I like it.
Based on the way I've worked it out here, and I'll be a little bit biased. Obviously, I'm a Dragons man, but you'd go Raiders, bottom 8, looking at it now. Raiders, Dragons, Seagulls, Bulldogs, Warriors, Knights, Titans, West Tigers. You'd go 9th versus 16th, 10th versus 15th, 11th, 14th, 12th, 13th. The only upset I see there is I see the Knights upsetting Manly. Because I think Manly are just shot. They're gone this year. Yeah. They've got nothing left. So I'd see the Raiders, Dragons, Bulldogs, and Knights go through. Raiders.
I've got the Dragons winning it.
Yeah, well, I've got.
I reckon they're in better form than the Raiders.
Well, the Raiders would then face off against the Knights. The Dragons face off against the Bulldogs, and I sound biased, but I think the Bulldogs fight and get over us. And they would face off against the Raiders in the final, King of the Ring. And I've got the Bulldogs causing an upset.
Okay. Well, they can still play. I mean, and that's the thing too, is that I guess that's a different mindset too, isn't it? Is that if you're not playing for a top 8 spot, you're playing for the king of the LWO King of the Ring.
Yeah.
which means a lot,
a majestic title, a very prestigious title. Maybe not as much as the LWIC title, but it's there. Hey, and you've seen, plenty of people have won King of the Ring and gone on to bigger and better things.
Okay, so who? Okay, fine. I'll ask you a serious question then. Out of the bottom top 8 teams, who's the most successful in the NRL next year?
Out of the current bottom 8 teams?
Out of the current bottom 8 teams, who goes the best next year?
I would probably say, I think the Bulldogs.
That's fair.
Because I think they beat the 4 teams that are below them every day of the week.
Mm.
And I think they'll go a lot better than, what are they, only on 6 wins? Yeah, I think they go double-figure wins next year. They get Reid Marnie, Kikau. They're starting to play some really good football. They get Cameron Serraldo in. I said it this year with all the signings and all that they'd go a lot better. And they haven't gone great, but they haven't been terrible the last sort of 10 weeks, have they? They've been pretty impressive in certain parts. So I think they follow that on, and I think they go close to pushing for an 8 spot next year. All
right. Well, I'll tell you. I'll go with 7th and 8th next year. Dragons and the Bulldogs both make the 8.
There you go.
I'm not just saying this about the Dragons, but they're reminding me with their kids coming through a little bit of West Tigers around 2003.
Yep.
Where these kids are just kind of just doing stuff on their own, and Tim Sheen's just sat back and said, "All right, you guys play football." I'm not saying the Dragons can win the comp in the next couple of years, but as long as the Dragons coaching staff let the kids play football and open their attack up and not be scared to give up, 24 points because they know they're going to score 30.
Yeah, yep.
I think the Dragons can go a lot deeper next year too. So, yeah, I agree with you about the Bulldogs, but I also think the Dragons will make the 8 next year too.
I like your faith, mate. I love your faith. Thank you.
I'm getting a bit biased too because of this other bloody podcast, but you're not helping and the other podcast is not helping.
Well, how about on your West Tigers? Where do you see them next year?
16th again.
You reckon? Or 17th?
Oh, mate. Who's worse? Who's going to be worse than next year?
Dolphins?
There you go. So it's not the wooden spoon.
Do you know what? Someone actually pointed out, they go, they saw a West Tigers, someone tweeted, at least next year it's the only thing is up for us. And they're like, I didn't want to mention that there's another team you can finish 17th. So imagine finishing last this year and then going worse next year. But yeah, anyway. Look, it'll be interesting, mate. Before we get on, we've got some questions coming up from some fans. Thank you very much for everyone who sent them in. But mate, coming into we're coming out of winter. We're going into a bit of warmer weather. What do you got going with the hottest 100?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, mate. So the some people might know the Rugby League Hottest 100 is an annual music countdown on the 81stminute.com. It's across our Facebook channel and our YouTube channel and Twitter. Some people might know that our Twitter account, because of me, we got done for music rights and lost all our followers, so we had to start again. But if you are out there and you like your music and stuff like that, hashtag Rugby League Hottest 100. It's across YouTube, our YouTube channel, Facebook and Twitter. Yesterday we did 60 to 51, so we're down to the top 50. So keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks. Thank you, Dean.
What sort of songs have we seen in the 50 to 100 range, mate? What are some of your favourites in them? You got any? Put you on the spot.
Top of my head. Yeah, good question. A couple of Eric Rose songs.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So from
what
the
about Rusty Crowe, 50-foot otter grunts or whatever it was. Is he featured yet?
No, but this is the first year we've actually done it where last year you could nominate songs and send them to us, but this year we actually put it on SurveyMonkey and had like 130 different options and let everyone pick as many or as they could pick one song or like 20 songs. So This is the first time that's truly up to the fans.
Gotcha.
So last year we it was Chris Warren on SEN. We were on his show for a whole week, counting down the songs and stuff like that. So So it's good. So follow it, the 81st Minute YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, And yeah, thanks, mate. I appreciate
We'll have to shoot out a message to maybe Joel and Fletch on SEN, see if they can give it some love. They love all those old tracks.
Oh, look, I'll give SEN one thing. They do love getting the punters on and trying to integrate with the fans. So I don't know if it turns into ratings or not, but so thanks for that, mate. And
no worries.
The Rugby League Hottest 100. Let's
get into some fan questions. So I want to thank everyone that sent us in some questions. I'll do a quick check and see if there's any more. But we've got a few here. So
we'll came through quick, eh?
Hey, they did. It was good. Love to see that fan interaction. We've got I posted up on Instagram as well, so we had a few questions through there. So you probably didn't see a lot of them, but I'll run through them. Who is this is from John Bernard K. They host a little show. I think it's called the B Team. They talk wrestling as well. Nice. Check them out. They're great guys, great fellas. Adama, he did some work for me a couple of years ago, getting out and about in with the fans and doing some fan TVs and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. But he came in with a question saying, who is the current tribal chief or / face of the company right now for the NRL? So obviously the tribal chief being Roman Reigns in the WWE, the face of the company. Would you say he's the face of the company, face of WWE?
100%.
Yeah, yep.
100%.
Yeah. Now John Cena gone, he's the number one, isn't he? Brock Lesnar, he comes in, but he's not the face. He's not the one, out week to week. So, but have you got a pick here for who's the face of the company for the rugby league, mate?
Oh, I was going to say the race of the Dally M, but the race of the Arthur Beetson medal on the 81st minute.com is what I should say. Is very, very close, and I couldn't pick a player out, so I've gone with Craig Fitzgibbon.
Oh,
Fitzy,
the coach, Fitzy.
Coach.
Yep.
Let's call him the tribal chief. He's
Why
killing
not?
them.
He is. He's leading the Sharkies back to the semis in his first year, doing very, very well. I like that.
You?
Mate, I went Latrell. Sort of turned his image around. He's turned his image around a little bit. Obviously, last year with his incident with Joey Manu and things like that, and in the past has turned a lot of fans off. Not me. I'm a huge fan of him.
I still can't believe that tackle on Manu. I thought he was just trying to make a tackle. But anyway.
Me too. Yeah. But. Yeah, I think fans just love to hate someone and they love to hate him. But I think the way he's turned around, the media that he's doing, and you see him in interviews, he's just a more happier person and he's more willing to do media and 100%. Talk. And I just think, if we wanted him to be, he would be the face of the company. I think we could really use that in rugby league right now. So
I wonder what happened at the Roosters then, because he was a superstar at the Roosters, a premiership winner. And then it kind of like just came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden he was gone from the Roosters. To me, it sounds like, did he want to go to the Roosters and be the face of the club, or
go to the Rabbits and be the face?
I don't know what happened. No, remember when he was at the Roosters? He was a premiership winner. He was one of the best players.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he was gone, and there was like maybe a month's speculation, Latrell doesn't want to play football, or the Roosters aren't happy with Latrell.
Oh, it was like
all of a sudden he's at the Roosters, and now he's a bloody superstar. He's a gun, and he's the face of the game. You keep on saying
the Roosters, but I think you mean the Rabbits. He went to the Roosters to the Rabbits.
No. What I'm saying is when he left the Roosters, he was a superstar at the Roosters.
Yep.
He was a premiership winner at the Roosters, and then all of a sudden this media speculation was like Latrell wants to leave the Roosters. The Roosters aren't happy with Latrell, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden he signs with South, and now we can see his personality. Now we can see the bloke.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying every club doesn't do this, but the amount of work that Souths do within the Aboriginal community was a big factor in that.
Of course, yeah. Different clubs as well.
Different clubs, so he gets to do a lot more there. Also playing fullback, going from playing centres to he wanted to go play fullback, which he gets to do. So I'd say they're probably the two biggest things. But yeah, I just think
I just mean maybe there was a bit of a character assassination there from the Roosters or from people connected to the Roosters at the time.
Yeah, possibly.
It made him look like a real bastard when he's a good bloke.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. This one also from Instagram, Makaya Hia Pinka. Apologies if that's your real name and I've just butchered it, or if it's just your Instagram handle that you've chosen. But Micaiah Hayapinka, thanks for the question. Who is winning between Moxley and Punk tomorrow? I'm not sure if you're up to date with AEW, mate, but with Punk out, Moxley came along, won the interim championship. Now they're going to face off potentially tomorrow. I think they might be saving it for All Out, but if they come up against each other tomorrow to unify the titles, one comes out the winner. For me, I'm going to take Punk. Like I said, he's one of my favourite wrestlers, and I think he's the stronger of the two to sort of lead the company here as the champion. Plus, I think it's perfect timing for him to take the title and bring back MJF, which I think I've spoken about all that, him leaving and all that's a bit of a work. I think he comes back in, gives him a chance to go head-to-head with Punk in a few matches and boost him up to the top. So that's who I'm taking, mate.
100%, and I can't believe it's free on TV. The other thing, too, is I'm kind of following AEW a lot more these days through a Twitter account called AEW Botchers, which is basically just all the fuck-ups in the ring. Yep. But, yeah, look, Punk 100%. The Moxley, okay, it's one thing when I'm going to say blade here, which makes you sound like a dickhead, but it's one thing when you're bleeding a match to make the match look better or give it more emotion, or, you know, you're the good guy against the bad guy and you get hit in the head with a chair and you've got to bleed. He's bleeding in every fucking match I see.
For no reason.
No, stop.
Yep.
Just stop, mate. So the only reason Moxley is interim is because Punk got injured. Punk's the champion. I'd be very interested, and fingers crossed that Tony Khan and AEW get their booking right over the next 6 months. Because I think it's very important to let's say where they go in the next 6 months. Get Punk as champion again, and don't get him in the ring like I said before. You know, he's your biggest product. I mean, you've got Daniel Bryan as well, or Bryan Danielson. I mean, those two guys were wrestling every single week on TV, which is fine, but put them against other big name guys, they're going to push the show.
Yep.
I mean, these guys are versing no names for 15, 20 minutes, and it makes them look worse instead of, you know, the whole point is getting the young guy over. So the answer is Punk. Punk will win, and let's see what happens after that. Moxley's supposed to still be a good guy, yeah?
Yep.
So
he's sort of like the anti. He's like a Wish version of Stone Cold at the moment.
Yeah. So if I was booking that show this week, I would say Punk wins clean, and then at the end of the match they shake hands, and then Moxley just belts the shit out of him and does something crazy that turns the fans against Moxley and actually gets them to the pay-per-view. Yep.
There you go. You heard it here first. What's going to happen?
There you go, champions.
Now, from Matt MSN _ which current players would be world champion, women's champion, mid-card? He said mid-card, so I'm assuming IC title, and tag team champions. Now, I'll lead off here.
Sure.
World champions. For me, it's either Cleary or Munster. You've got Cleary, the current champion with the Panthers, led there, Clive Churchill medal. But you've got Munster, who terrible off season, is fighting his way back. We know he's a main event player. And, you know, it's one of those two, but, you know, I think we'll find out in the finals who is the world champion from there. Women's champion, I've got Emma Tonegata. I watched her play on the weekend, and she blitzed it. She's an absolute gun. Obviously, Dally M medalist. Is it Dally M or is it...
Yeah, I think it's still Dally M.
Dally M, yep. Apologies if it's not. Yeah, she's a gun, and she's clearly the women's champion for me. Close second, or who is a challenger? I would say Millie Boyle. Going from the Broncos, the powerhouse that they have been over the last few years in the NRLW, to do what she's done with the Knights, get their first win, I thought was brilliant. So she's challenging there. IC title, I can't see anyone but Nico Hines. For me, he's going to be the next big player. But for now, he's just sort of having an awesome IC run where he's going to drop the title but still continue on winning and go further to continue playing in the big game. So he's my mid-card guy. In the tag team, I've gone Latrell and Alex Johnson out on the left-hand side for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Deadly combo. Jono's just scoring tries at will, and Latrell's just a beast. So I think they're the big names for the tag team titles. Who you got, mate?
I like all of it. but I've got Nico Hines here too. But I got Nico Hines as world champion now, right?
Yep.
As a babyface rookie, not rookie, but a babyface kind of smiling world champ.
Yep.
But I've gone a little bit further and said I've got heel James Tedesco chasing him for the title.
Heel. He turned heel this year.
Yeah, with his manager, Uncle Nick Politis, next to him. And then what will happen is, this is my stupid head, Tedesco will seal a win for the title, and then Hines comes back later and gets it back as the full-blown champ. Women's title, Isabel Kelly, the Roosters captain center.
Yep.
She's beautiful. She's a beautiful-looking woman, but apart from that, which is about fifth down the ladder when it comes to the NRL, because the best part about her is she is a gun.
Yep.
A monster. She's just a tank center and so classy, and she gets it done, and she's obviously a good leader as well. My IC title is Dylan Brown. I'm not a big para fan, but Dylan Brown is on the cusp of something great, and I think Dylan Brown can do it at Parramatta without Mitchell Moses. So, don't watch this space, but I'm just saying that if something happens to Mitchell Moses and he leaves the Eagles for any reason, I think the club can build a club around Dylan Brown.
Yep.
So that's why it's my IC title. I actually had To'o and Luai as my tag champs, but they're injured. So I thought it was active, but that's fine. I've gone with the Cheese and Munster.
Oh, deadly.
It's just idiot baby faces like Scotty the Hottie and Grandmaster Sexy.
Yeah.
And like Nas coming out as Rikishi or something like that.
I'm seeing it more as like a Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
You didn't know.
Yep. I just see them as, But no, I like that.
But how good is that? Like, how
that is good. That's good fun. That's what we want. So they're the sort of questions we want, because have a little bit of fun with them. Now we've got one here from. I'm going to actually leave that one because it's a good one for last. Who is the UK Super League equivalent in a wrestling promotion? This was from at Dean K88. First of all, shout out for the excellent name, Dean. You could not get a better name than that. UK Super League equivalent in a wrestling promotion. I don't know. I would say TNA. They're there. They have some decent talent, but they just really have no direction, and they're not going too well. But
I wrote Impact, which is the same thing.
Same thing. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
we're on the money.
That their Man of Steel was about to be Brodie Croft, who could knock a people the chop in the NRL.
Yep.
I mean, that's what happens, though, right? So, but that is perfect in a way. Because you think of it this way, a lot of guys from WWE left, went to other companies like Drew McIntyre and Lashley. They went to TNA Impact, applied their trade, and now they've come back as bigger names.
Yep.
It's the same in rugby league. Blake Green, Jackson Hastings. There's other names too that I can't think of off the top of my head. But they go to England because sometimes if you start in the NRL and you die on the arse, if you stay in Australia out of ego, you end up on your ass. But if you go to England and actually, do the hard yards, like a Jackson Hastings, who was the people in Salford over there loved the bloke.
Yeah.
So actually, you know what? It sounded funny when I wrote it, and I'm sure you probably looked at it and went, "Oh yeah, Impact TNA, da da da." But it actually makes sense.
Yep.
It does. So look, and that's a message for rugby league players in Australia that don't make it the first time. Don't be scared to go overseas and try your hand, because it'll make you a better player.
It used to be.
So there's an actual compliment to England.
Yeah, it used to be, finish up in Australia at 31, 32, go over there, you can play for another 5 years, right? And it used to be, stack up the pension check and all that sort of stuff. That was the running thing, where now it's more, do you know what? You might not be ready for the NRL. Go over to Super League, where you'll start every week. You'll get used to playing against men every week in a more attacking. You play a lot more games. Play for 2 years, then you come back with that world experience. You might spend a year in New South Wales Cup, but you might only spend 5 games there and then come into the NRL side. So, yeah, great shout. Yep. Great question too, Dean. Obviously, that might be question of the week. Thanks to Dino because of his name. Next one from the Steves 89. Dream Armageddon match with NRL players. So the Armageddon match, the old 6 like what is it, 6 Hell in a Cell, the corners.
No, they only did it one. No, I think what he's saying is it was a Hell in a Cell, but the only 6-man Hell in a Cell that ever happened was 2000, and it was Angle, Austin, Rock, Taker, Triple H, and Rikishi.
I think that's the one he's talking about. Yep.
Rikishi got thrown off the top of the cell.
Yep.
Mm.
So 6 players you'd love to see in an Armageddon style match like that. Do you want to go first here, mate?
Yeah, I'm only doing this in the fact that of guys that I think that look like wrestlers that would just look like they bash the shit out of each other. So I've gone James Fisher Harris, Nelson Asafa Solomona,
yep,
Billy Kickow, Joseph Paulo, Tino Fasumo Alawi. I fucked that up. I've had a few drinks.
Did pretty well.
David Clemmer.
It's big. It's just
that's
monsters,
crew,
isn't it? Yeah, I've gone with a bit of a mixture. I don't mind that. Just a monster.
No,
I think the Hell in a Cell.
About putting like a Munster and a cheese in and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think chucking all those 6 guys into a Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell would not last. No. They'd be getting thrown against that. It'd fall down. We'd see some injuries. But
what do you got?
Mate, I've got my big guys. I've got Tino and Haas. So obviously, that they love to fight each other. But you'd probably save that for a main event style match. But I'll throw them in
Royal
here.
Rumble the next month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nelson Asafa Solomona as well, just the big giant. Dale Finucane, for me, the worker. He will just keep fighting, and he'll bleed. Right, he'll provide the blood. He'll bleed. But then I've gone for a couple of little crafty smaller guys. I've got Nico Hines in as a bit of a Shawn Michaels type. You can do some of the high flying stuff.
Babyface or heel?
I think babyface. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And I've got Sammy Walker, little nifty mate. He would get. You know what? He would get creamed by somebody. But he'd be nifty. He'd fly. Go around. I think he'd be a bit of a high flyer, small guy. Prove his worth. And from that, he won't win the match, but from that, he'll show that he can create something special and go on to bigger and better things.
He'd have to have a gimmick. He'd have to have like the
Hurricane Helms,
something like that, or hide on the ring for 15 minutes like Jerry Lawler or something like that. That's good, man. Actually, yours sounds better than mine because mine is just 6 big bastards. That doesn't make sense. That's not good booking.
It's not good booking. No, it's 100% not good booking. But do you know what? I think all this sort of stuff is going to lead in well at our final show for the year. I think we'll do like a card, and we've talked about it where we do a card of all the rugby league feuds that we've had throughout the year and throughout history, I suppose, and put them in a card for the year. It could be an annual thing that we do, and that'll be our sort of send off. But this is all the stuff that we, so we love these sort of questions. Gives us ideas of matches we could have. From Boo says, WrestleMania X7 TLC match with NRL players. Who would make it? Who would make up the tag team? So, from memory, there was the 3 tag teams. There was the Dudley Boys, Hardy Brothers, and Edge and Christian. It was only the 3, wasn't there? Yep. So I've gone 3. I've stuck strictly with halves combos as my tag teams. Just I don't know, little rule I made myself.
Fair enough.
Munster and Hughes. I think I sort of fit them in the Dudley Boys, I suppose, spot. I've got Hines and Moylan. I put them in the Edge and Christian spot. And then I've got Moses and Brown, Dylan Brown, as the who have I got left? Hardy Boys spot. So that's all I've got.
It's good.
Yeah.
Who wins? Who wins in your match?
I think I'd probably.
Oh, no, sorry. What's the finish?
Oh, who tackles who? Who smashes someone while they're hanging off
who climbs the ladder?
Climbs the ladder and tackles someone holding onto the thing. I think we'll see Munster holding onto the title, and I'd see Hines tackle him. Old teammates tackle him, and then I'll probably see maybe Moses and Brown come up and collect the titles.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So are they heels?
They're heels. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. I don't mind a heel finish every now and then.
No. As long as it works out on the whole card, I'm happy with that. I've gone combinations again. So you've already heard a couple of these. So I've gone I think from the original one, though, every team had a manager or a sidekick with them. So the Hardys had leader, Edge and Christian had Rhino, and the Dudleys had Spike.
Yep.
All right. So I've gone Cheese and Munster, and the monster. Oh, sorry, I've actually scratched it out. So it's not Nuss. I've gone Welch, Cameron Welch as the nerd with the glasses on, telling everyone how good rugby league is and what you can do better or whatever. Luai and Toto.
I rate that.
Yeah, Luai and Toto, but
Yep.
it's the Cleary boys as
Cleary
their
boys.
sidekicks. So they got two, right?
Gotcha. Yep.
And Teddy and Manu with Uncle Nick again.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to go for the big...
Do you reckon Uncle Nicky comes out with a briefcase?
Oh,
Briefcase,
easy.
tie.
No, brown paper bag. Brown
paper bag, no briefcase.
And a sombrero.
You don't know what's in the brown paper bag.
And
It's
a
like
sombrero
hidden,
as well.
Rate that.
And I reckon my finish would be... Oh, here we go. So Cheese is about to join the Roosters anyway. So let's go.
Oh, he turns heel.
Cheese is about to climb the ladder and he's about to grab it. And Nick gets in the ring with his sombrero and his paper bag and starts flashing $100 notes. And Cheese gets down, and then Teddy climbs on the other side and picks the titles up.
There you go.
So there you go. So heel
That's a
turns
great
to
finish.
Cheese. Munster's sitting there going, "What
have I done?
What's going on?" Yep, that's me. I
Done.
just made that up then.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's the thing. We don't think about the finishes, so we'll have to remember that next time we want to do a match. We've got to remember to do a finish for it. But great question,
awesome.
Boo says. Now, finishing off, I would almost add Karate Warrior or at ME_DC as a contributor to this page and the
Karate
podcast.
Warrior's the best.
He is the best. Some of his stuff, he just keeps on reminding us. So, mate, legend, love your work. He came up with a question. If the top 8 were wrestlers from the Attitude Era, who would they be? Now, I'll let you know, I haven't come up with anything for 3 of them. The Panthers, Cowboys, Broncos. So I don't know if you have. If you want to lead off there, but I've got some of the others if you want to go through them.
I've completely read this question wrong. So I've got actually 8 wrestlers from the Attitude Era. So what was the question?
If the top 8, so the current top 8 were wrestlers from the Attitude Era, who would they be? No, that's all right.
You go first.
I'll go first. If you can try and come up with someone for the Panthers, Cowboys, and Broncos, I've got the Sharkies. I've got them as Triple H. I think they gets in, does the dirty work, almost like heel, like can turn heel at any time, and was a heel, can turn to face, go from face to heel. Changes. I'm a Dragons man, but for some reason I can't hate this Sharks team for what they're doing. But obviously I do hate them because they're the Sharkies, but at the same time, I do sort of like them. So that's who I've got for them. The Storm I've got as the Undertaker. They just won't go away. When you think they're dead, the bell tolls and they make a big comeback. They're just never dead and buried. Eels, I got Ric Flair. Even though he was still part of the Attitude Era from the WCW side
when he came back as the owner.
Yep. I've got the Eels as Ric Flair because he was massive in the 80s, but nothing really of note since. And just when you think the comeback is on, they disappoint. I don't know if you saw his comeback match, but if you haven't, don't worry, you haven't missed anything.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he is. Thank God.
Okay, awesome.
Roosters, I've got as Bret Hart. Just a solid worker, champion of the past, still there. Still breathing. Was a heavy influencer in the Attitude Era. Won a few titles, so I've got him. Rabbitohs, Mick Foley. I think sort of that underdog story of when they won in 2014. Was it 2013? No, 2014.
14.
Yeah.
14, yep.
And everyone, I wouldn't say everyone cheered for him, but he put bums on. They put bums on seats when they did it. Just like Mick Foley when he won his first title. So, and he'd gone, how many years for not being in the main event and things like that. So that's who I've likened there. You got anything for Panthers, Cowboys, or Broncos, mate?
Yeah, I've just scribbled this down, so I don't know how good this is. So for Panthers, off the top of my head, I've gone Triple H, but as that kind of tweener, fan heel.
Yep.
Where no matter what, he doesn't lose.
Yep, they're very similar.
You don't know if to boo him or cheer him. So, but no matter what, they're going to win. Cowboys, I did have Foley, but I've changed it to Eddie Guerrero.
Yep.
where it's kind of like they're an underdog. You don't expect them to win, but if they win, then you're happy.
Yep.
Broncos are going Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, for 6 months, Jericho could be on the top of the card. The next 6 months, is it mid-range or is
Sunday
fighting for
night
the European title? So they're my three. That's off the top of my head. I actually thought it was like your Attitude Era top 8, and which would have upset you because I had Triple H at 6.
Yeah, it would have
so
upset
I'm sorry
me.
about that, mate.
Mate, he's a
But
king
I'm
of,
glad we
king of
changed it.
Attitude Area.
No, come on.
There's another one for another episode.
Yeah, fair enough.
But thanks very much for the question, Karate Warrior. Mate, slide in our DMs. I actually want to know what your real name is. Well, maybe you don't want to. Actually, no, don't, because we might accidentally put it on the show where we don't want it to. But, mate, we appreciate your work and what you do
at some point.
Yeah, we appreciate what you do, and send us all the questions and just tagging us in stuff as well. I love just opening up Twitter after a few days of not opening it up and come into the League World Order one and holy shit.
How good is it like you sit there and you forget about League World Order for 3 days and you've got like 25 notifications?
Yeah, it's good.
What the fuck's been going on?
Sorry, guys. But I'll go back and start liking a few and retweeting it. But mate, that's going to wrap us up. I'm going to go give the kids a kiss. Good night. But a pleasure as always, Curtis. Listeners, thanks so much for tuning in and listening along to our absolute dribble. But it's been a good chat, mate.
See you in a couple of weeks, brother.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Talk again soon.